Welcome in everybody to the PNR show. As always, I'm your host Paul Intro Rothrock, and today we've got a great episode ahead. But as I always say, go ahead and rate and review us on Spotify. Click that follow button, and then on YouTube, do the same thing, but click the subscribe button. Comment down below; that'd be greatly appreciated. Hit the like button, right? Share this with your friends and family. That would be greatly appreciated. But this is currently being filmed on Christmas Eve, so a Merry Christmas to everyone. It's been about a month since we've had an episode. A lot has gone on in my life. It's been a very busy season, but college football has also been great. The last time we were here, we were talking about the last week of the regular season. Since then, we've had the conference championship games, and obviously, as I said, the first round of the college football playoffs, and I can't wait to talk about it. So let's get right into it. This was, it was about, I'd say, 80% of what you could ask for. The first two games were simply incredible. This is what we talk about when we think of college football, right? We have the home environments, we have great games, we have upsets. It was really fun. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it all started on Friday night where the Alabama Crimson Tide went into Norman, Oklahoma, and beat the Sooners 34-24. Just a wild game. Oklahoma went up 17-0 in this one, and it was looking like it was over for Alabama. When I was predicting this game, I thought that Alabama just wouldn't be able to keep up with Oklahoma because if you remember, they already lost to Oklahoma. And then going down 17-0, Alabama had been struggling in the first half of that game, obviously, but against Auburn, they really struggled. Against Georgia, they struggled. In other games, they struggled since they had that mid-season where they looked really strong. Ty Simpson in that offense was never able to get going. And then when Oklahoma went up by 3 scores, it was looking like it was over. But then Lotsier Brooks, the freshman, by the way, had a 30-yard catch, and that was, I think, where Alabama started to get going. At this point, their offense had about 30 yards total. They had absolutely nothing. All they needed was just one play to be able to get going. And then 4th and 2, Lotsier Brooks again, the true freshman. He was the leading Alabama receiver at that game. Had 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns, incredible. 4th and 2, catches the ball, and then he evades like 3 guys, scores. And at that point, you could tell even just watching on the TV, but Norman was stunned. For a freshman to be able to do that, kind of looked like Ryan Williams, who he was last year. We'll talk about him a little bit more later, but it was incredible. And from that moment forward, Kirk Herbstreit talked about it, and he thought that it would be a monumental moment, and it was. It absolutely was. By the way, while talking about Ryan Williams, he only had 1 catch in this game, and it's been a question of where is Ryan Williams? What happened? I thought, last year, obviously, he had the incredible game against Georgia, and he did have a really good season, a better season than he's having now, but I thought he was slightly overrated because of that catch against Georgia. But coming into this year, I didn't think he would be this poor. He had a huge drop in this game, which could have costed Alabama the game. He was wide open on the sideline and just bounces off his chest. It kind of looks like a lot of times when he's catching the football, it just doesn't look natural, right? People have talked about that. Joel Klatt talks about it. But it doesn't look natural when he's catching the ball. He doesn't use his hands. I don't know. But I think in order for Alabama to beat Indiana, who they'll play in the Rose Bowl, I think he's got to have a game. They've got to get him involved somehow, and he's already been overtaken by Jeremy Bernard and Cuevas, their tight end, and then now Lotsier Brooks, the freshman. So Ryan Williams buried in the depth chart. We'll see what happens with him. But again, continuing to talk about the game, there was this interesting play, 3rd and 3, and John Mateer, after this they had the punt, but John Mateer, he rolls out to his left, and there is nothing but grass in front of him. If he takes off, he gets that first down by like 20 yards, but he decides to throw it to Xavier Robinson, the running back, about 20 yards down the field, and obviously Robinson drops the ball. They have to punt. There's been a lot of talk about this play, right? Should John Mateer have thrown that ball? I think a lot of people have said that he should have just taken off and gotten the first down. I think, to me, hindsight is 20/20, right? I think if you can make that throw, and he did. It was right on the money. You couldn't have asked John Mateer to throw that ball any better. If you can make that throw, I mean, throw it. Throw it. Your guy is wide open. I mean, he had his defender beat by 5 yards. Robinson catches that. It's probably a touchdown, right? Think about that. They were up 17-7. Xavier Robinson catches that, goes and scores. It's 24-7. We're probably talking about Oklahoma moving on to the Rose Bowl. Hindsight's 2020, right? John Mateer, I thought, obviously he had one really bad decision in this game, and we'll talk about that. But I thought overall his decision-making was good. I think, he made the right decision there. And then after that play, 4th and 3, their punter, who's an all-pro, or excuse me, not all-pro, but all-American guy, just drops the punt. Like, it didn't even hit his toe. It didn't even, it's so hard to explain this. But as a punter, when you kind of just drop the ball and then you kick it, right? Well, he just dropped the ball and he didn't kick. It's like he completely froze, and Alabama got the ball and they kicked the field goal after that. But at that point, like, Norman was silent, and the momentum had completely shifted. And then the big play where Alabama ties the game, the John Mateer throws a pick six. It looked like, so I'll try my best to explain this, but his receiver was one-on-one outside, right? And when you have that, your kind of your mentality is, okay, if he's pressed up on me, I'm running a go, right? That way I can just get by the corner. But if he's backing off of me, okay, then I'm running a hitch. Well, it seemed to me like there was miscommunication between John Mateer and the wide receiver, right? So the wide receiver runs a go, but I think John Mateer is expecting him to just run a hitch, and that's where he throws it to. I mean, he throws it right to the corner who's in the flat. That's where his receiver was supposed to be. So I think a lot of the blame has been put on John Mateer. Not 100% his fault, because if his man runs a hitch, his guy's there, and it's probably broken up, incomplete, might still be a pick, but at least it's probably not a pick six, right? Here's the interesting thing when you watch the play, and this has been talked about a lot. Originally, Alabama was showing cover 0. They were showing a 0 look, which is an all-out blitz. They hadn't blitzed a lot at that point at all in the game. Alabama does not blitz defensively a lot. They kind of just sit back and run a stonewall defense, but they shifted from a cover 2 or to a cover 0 look, and then their safety, who was mugged on the defensive line, sprints out and goes back to his half of the field. So immediately John Mateer's got to know, okay, this is cover 2, or this is some type of formation defensively where they're going to have someone in the flat, right? When they have one safety on one side of the field, and then their other safety gets to the other side of the field, automatically a quarterback should know that's cover 2. So, I mean, it was John Mateer's fault. You got to know that safety sprints out of there. Something's weird, right? That's not a man look, obviously. So it's a zone. So you got to go to your checks against zone. And that type of hitch to go check is only done against man. You can't do it against zone, because no matter what, the zone is going to be the zone. They're not going to change based on whether or not your man runs a hitch or a go, but you can change it based on their leverage defensively against man, right? John Mateer admitted that it was the wrong decision, and honestly, he never quite looked comfortable after that. And, there were a lot of times where he was stepping up in the pocket, and he would kind of do this jump and throw the ball to his receiver, and it was way behind him. There was times where I remember there was a Texas route, right, which is the running back runs at an angle and then comes back in at an angle. You can call it an angle route as well, but his guy runs an angle, and John Mateer just completely misses him. It's way low. And the thing about that type of angle route is it's got to be right on the money. It's got to be right at the chest, at the numbers, and really out in front of his running back, right? So then he can catch the ball and get momentum going forward. It's really hard to have your running back make a hard 45-degree cut and then the ball is just out of place. John Mateer at that point never looked comfortable after, and really a shame, because he started that game hot. He started it hot, 2 touchdowns in a row, and it was like, okay, this is the John Mateer we have been waiting for. He took the thumb brace off, so he was supposed to look better in the game, and he did for a start of it. But then, Alabama, credit to the Crimson Tide. They did an incredible job of switching things up. I remember early in the game, they were doing a lot of what they do, which is a lot of zone, some cover two man, but always two safeties back, very conservative, have your four up front get to the quarterback. But that wasn't working because John Mateer and his run ability is able to get past that. And if you can just have him sit in the pocket, which credit to the Oklahoma offensive line, but if you can have him sit in the pocket and deliver a pass, he's going to kill you all day. But then credit to Alabama for bringing the pressure, starting to switch up the looks, trying to change the formation and what John Mateer was looking at. Really confused Mateer. They did an incredible job. Oklahoma, they tried to keep it close from that point on, but the complete momentum was for the Crimson Tide. How about the Jeremy Bernard catch? Oh my goodness. I mean, I think it was at that point where you really know that Alabama was going to win. I mean, that was an incredible catch. And Jeremy Bernard, he's been making catches like that all year long. But if you haven't seen it, I mean, he goes up on the Oklahoma defender and just completely pins the ball to the back of his head like mid-air. It was incredible. And he caught the ball. It was, just an incredible catch. And that was, they scored after that, and that was complete momentum for Alabama. They just could not be stopped after that point. And this was something that we kind of talked about and that a lot of people talked about was the resolve of Alabama. They have all year long done an incredible job of when things look chippy, when things look like they aren't going their way, they have an incredible ability to bounce back. And credit to Kalen DeBoer. That's kind of what he does and what the Crimson Tide have done all year long. If you remember, first game of the season, Alabama lost to Florida State on the road, and Florida State ended up being bad, and we all kind of wrote Alabama off. And then they go into Georgia. They go in between the hedges and beat them. And then it was kind of the same thing where they played Georgia in the SEC championship game and they got blown out, and people are kind of writing them off. They're saying, oh, Oklahoma's at home. They already beat them. They're up 17-0. Alabama has no chance. And what a critical point in that game when they're down 17-0 and the hot seat is under Kalen DeBoer. And the question is, can he come out and win that game being down by that much? And he did. He did. Incredible resolve by that team. Ty Simpson, he was great in the game. They were finally able to get the running game going a little bit. It wasn't an extremely explosive run game, but they got it when they needed to. They did a good job of getting their running backs involved. Obviously, having Jam Miller back completely helped them. That was something that they've been missing for a while, but they did a good job. Tate Sandell, the best kicker in all of college football, won the Lou Groza Award, missed 2 field goals in this game at the end of the game. And it was kind of disappointing to see because of how good he's been all season long. And we see this so much in college football where kickers just they lose the games for their teams. And that's the job of being a kicker. You either win the game sometimes or you lose the game. And a lot of times when you lose the game for your team, they're going to be on your head every single time. And Tate Sandell, I don't think as many people are on him because of the season that he's had, but it's just true that the kicking game in college football isn't good. So I think we'll probably see a lot more guys, a lot more head coaches we're going to go for it on 4th down. We're not going to put the ball in the hands of our kicker because we've seen way too many times kickers lose their teams the game in college football. It just happens way too often. Think about Ohio State against Indiana. That happened. Think about Ohio State against Georgia. Clearly, there's a kicking problem. And in the Miami and Texas A&M college football playoff game, which we'll talk about, a lot of missed kicks. So I think we'll start to see that shift. That's something that I think people will start to talk about. But it was the right decision, I believe, to put Tate Sandell out there. If you think about where they were at that point in the game, they make that field goal, they're down by a touchdown. They can get a stop, and then they can score and send it to overtime. That was the right decision. And even after missing that field goal and then coming back, same scenario. You still have time in the clock, a little bit less, but same scenario. Kick the field goal, you make it, get a touchdown, overtime. No, right? And so it happens. You don't expect your Lou Groza award-winning kicker to miss 2 in a row, but it happens. There was a lot of wind in that game. There was a lot of wind. That was certainly a factor. But credit to Tate Sandell. He's had an incredible season. But overall, credit to the Alabama Crimson Tide as they are moving on to play the Indiana Hoosiers. How about this next game, Miami and Texas A&M? The Hurricanes 10, the Aggies 3. What a dogfight it was. I mean, it was a weird game, right? But I thought it was a really fun one to watch. It was kind of the opposite of the Alabama and Oklahoma game, right? The Bama-Oklahoma game was completely offensive. There was a lot of firepower. And this one, which was kind of what we expected it to be, a defensive battle. The Miami defense is incredible. That front four is amazing. And then Texas A&M had been leading the country in sacks and tackles for loss. So, these two teams were kind of the definition of what a front four and front seven looked like in a line of scrimmage game. And if you remember, before the game, Mario Cristobal is talking on College Game Day, and he talks about how he wants to make it a line of scrimmage game, right? Whichever quarterback can have the least amount of turnovers, and that's what I thought it was. Which quarterback could make the least mistakes? I think a lot of people thought, and I thought as well, that it would be Marcel Reed. Think about what Marcel Reed has done all year long. He's been so explosive, and he's had a couple lapses where he's turned the ball over a lot. Against South Carolina, he did that. Against Texas, he did that. But I thought he would be able to bounce back in this one, especially this one being at home. You think about Kyle Field, the 12th man, 100,000 plus, screaming in Carson Beck's face. And for him to not throw an interception at all, incredible. He did an incredible job, and this was kind of what was the Achilles heel for Miami all year long, is the turnovers. When they lost against Louisville, it was the turnovers. He had 4 in that one, and against SMU, he had 2. So that was really clearly what Mario Cristobal wanted to do in the game he wanted to play. And listen, when you're on the road and it's tied 0-0 or 3-3 and it's the fourth quarter, at that point, it's no longer a road game, right? Because you kind of have all of the fans and the opposing sideline nervous, like thinking, okay, we should have blown them out of the water by now. It's close. At that point, it's even. Credit to Miami. Credit to Carson Beck. I thought he's going to have to play a lot better against Ohio State. He's going to have to make some plays down the field. He was very conservative, but they did exactly what they needed to do in order to win this game. In terms of Marcel Reed, he's been shaky at times throughout the season. We talked about that. But listen, I thought he would just be a lot better in this game. It was really confusing because he couldn't get the ball to Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion. Concepcion didn't have a single catch until like the second quarter. And I think at that point it was only like 10 yards. This was the offense that was the most explosive in college football. And even losing to Texas, it was like the offense still was firing in that game. It was just they were on the road and, things happened. But my goodness, Marcel Reed, he made that throw at the end of the game to there's like 4 defenders there, and there's no reason why he should have made that pass. It was just an errant pass, even if he threw it on time, which I think it was another angle route for his receiver. No way. Run the ball, do something else, throw it away, live for the next down. And I think that's something that Marcel Reed is going to have to learn. Listen, he'll be fine. He'll be right back next year. He has all the talent in the world. He's an incredible quarterback. He's an incredible runner. He just has to be smarter with his throws. And I think this kind of tells to the development problem that we have, not just in college football, but in the NFL as well. And I think we are kind of rushing these quarterbacks, just putting them on the field right away because of their athleticism, but we're not teaching them the game. And I think part of that is quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators. I don't think these offensive coordinators are setting their guys up in order to be able to make the right throws, to make the right reads. I don't think they're teaching it to these guys. I think there's a reason why we don't see as many, as good quarterback play in the NFL as we used to see. We used to see these guys go all the way up and they would play and they would wait a couple years in college, and then they would get to the NFL and they would sit a little bit and then they would play. They would learn the offense first. But obviously in the NIL era, all of these guys want to do is play. They want to play and then they want to get paid. And so they're going to go wherever they can go to do that. And so it doesn't matter if they sit out their freshman year, because guess what? They'll just transfer to somewhere where they'll play. And so I think we've got to see a better mindset from these coaches, from these developmental people, to be able to develop these quarterbacks in the mind. I think that was what made the 2000s and 2010s era of quarterbacks so incredible, is that their mind was far beyond the defense. The defenses have not gotten that much better. Clearly, because we see guys in the NFL who can dice up these defenses. They haven't gotten that much better. They're not so complicated that it's just impossible for a quarterback to make the right reads. No, it's not impossible. We've seen it done before. It just takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a mental capacity that a quarterback should have. But, that's enough with that rant. That's enough with that. As we talked about earlier, there were a lot of missed field goals in this game. I think there was 3 of them. The wind was up to 15 plus miles per hour. It was an extremely windy day. The pregame kick that Pat McAfee does pregame, it was, I mean, you could just see it on the flags, on the fans. People's hats were flying off. Insane. I think it almost got up to 20 miles per hour, but we saw 3 missed kicks. And so that was part of the game. I mean, this was a complete defensive battle, back and forth. I mean, every time a team would get into the red zone, they'd kick a field goal and then they'd miss it. It was just, man. And I think one of the differences in this game absolutely was the run game for Miami. That was something that they had been looking to get going, the same as Alabama, all season long. But Mark Fletcher Jr., credit to him, 172 yards on 17 carries. He had one heck of a game, and he's one heck of a running back. I mean, he is huge. He reminds me kind of like dare I say, a Derrick Henry. Dare I say. I mean, I wouldn't say the same type of productivity, but his build certainly is. I mean, he just runs people over, and when he goes, he goes. He's like a freight train. He's just those guys who are built big. They can cut, but at the same time, they will run you over if you're not careful. Incredible game from him. And then Malachi Toney, credit to him. He had that fumble midway through the game, and then he got it back. He scored the game-winning touchdown for Miami. This kid, I think he might have just turned 18. If not, he's 17 years old. But either way, he's supposed to be in high school right now. He's an incredible player, and he's one of the best receivers in college football all the way. And he's going to have a big game against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. They're going to have to get him going early and often, and he can't fumble the football like that. We know when they play Ohio State that it's probably going to be another line of scrimmage game. Think about how Ohio State has played against Indiana. That was a line of scrimmage game, and they got dominated on the line of scrimmage. And the Miami defensive line is probably better than the defensive line of Indiana. They have Ruben Bain and they have Akeem Mesidor. These are 2 All-American guys. They are incredible. They're going to get after Julian Sayin. So the Buckeyes are going to have to do something to be able to stop them. And then on the other side, the offensive line for Miami, we know how good they are. They have a top 10 pick in Francis Magoa at the left tackle, and then the defensive line for Ohio State is incredible. So what a matchup that's going to be. We got to see if Ohio State is going to let the guys play. Ryan Day will be calling the plays for that one, and then Mario Cristobal, he's going to do a great job of trying to compress the game for the Buckeyes, try to keep it a line of scrimmage game, and that's where I think Miami probably has the advantage. What a game that's going to be. So we started out the weekend with two great games, and then we finished it with these absolute duds. Absolute duds. Ole Miss 41-10 against Tulane, and Oregon 51-34 versus JMU. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we playing these games? No one wants to watch them. I'm sorry. No one. They had 10 million less views than the other two games. 10 million. Like, there's no way this is one good for the sport. There's no way it's good for the conferences. There's no way it's good for anybody. Anybody. Not even the teams playing in these games. Because guess what's going to happen? Every single time is they're going to go on the road to Autzen Stadium or to Ole Miss, and they're going to get demolished every single time. It's just, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. That's what it is. And it's crazy to expect these teams to be on the same playing field when that's just not the state of college football anymore. This isn't the days of Boise State. This isn't the days of UCF even. This isn't the days of those teams because guess what? All of those teams are now in power conferences. It's just not the same, especially in the transfer portal era. But credit to JMU. You know, they had 500 plus yards of offense. Dan Lanning said, felt like they played short of their standard. Kenyon Sadiq pretty much said the same thing. He said it felt like they lost in that locker room. I think they'll bounce back. They play Texas Tech next week. They got to come back better, though. They cannot give up that much offense, and I'm sure Dan Lanning, he does an incredible job of adjusting and motivating his team. I think he'll do a swell job of getting his team ready to go against Texas Tech. But if you really watch that game against James Madison, like it was dominant. It was dominant. It was 34-3 at halftime. I mean, most people turned it off after that. It was just Oregon put in the backups and then JMU started scoring and whatever. It was still never close at all. It was never close. In terms of Texas Tech, they haven't faced a roster that's as talented as Oregon. Like, Oregon is easily one of the most talented rosters in college football. I mean, what Dan Lanning and that staff has done in terms of recruiting and the transfer portal and what they have done in developing guys, they've done an incredible job. And just year after year, this is a national championship contender. Look at this. Oregon has 52. That's right, 52 4-stars compared to JMU's 3. By the way, the 3 4-stars for JMU's all former 4-stars. They weren't 4-stars when they entered the portal. They entered the portal at 3 or 2 stars and then went to James Madison. So really, James Madison has none. Oregon has 52. Like, the talent gap between these teams in the group of 6 and these teams in these Power 4 conferences that are playing for national championships, that are giving their teams millions and millions of dollars, is just too large. It's too wide. It's not fair. These teams aren't playing on level playing field. If you think about the transfer portal and what it does, every time a player, say he's a 3-star, right, and he goes to a school that's in the group of 6, well, he has a great year, an All-American year. Well, guess what? He's hopping in the portal, obviously. And these schools know that when they're recruiting these guys. They know that when they recruit players that they're going to get decimated in the portal because that's what their programs have become. They've become stepping stones for these guys to be able to go to big programs so that then they can win championships and awards and then go to the NFL. And rightfully so. These players should have the ability to do that. But to think that you have all of that going on, and these schools are stepping stones for the Power 4 schools, and then you're going to have them play each other in the playoffs, not just in the regular season, but in the playoffs. You're going to have them play each other for a chance for a national championship. And you're asking JMU and you're asking Tulane to go through 3 teams in order to win the national championship. That's ridiculous. See, I think the playoffs should never be more than how many teams you think can win a national championship. At this point in how the playoffs and how college football has situated itself, I think at most you'll have 8 teams who can really win a national championship. And that might be stretching it. That's probably stretching because think about last year, Ohio State was the 8 seed, but even then, they shouldn't, if you rank them out 1 through 8, they weren't the 8 seed because you had Arizona State and Boise State. So I think having this artificial floor for these group of 6 teams and then just kind of rewarding them saying, here you go, we'll give you a game. That's not good for anybody. Nobody wants to see those games. I think the clear answer is to let the group of 6 have their own playoffs. Everyone has been saying this. Paul Feinbaum has said it. Joel Klatt has said it. Kirk Herbstreit, Joey Galloway. Every single person who said it. Nick Saban. Let the group of 6 have their own playoffs. And if they qualify for the regular playoffs, then they qualify. Sure, absolutely. If you're a top 12 team, top 14, 16, however many we have, but if you qualify for that playoffs, go play. Go play, absolutely. But if you're, say, ranked 20th and 24th, 22nd, to have them go all the way up to top 12 and to go on the road, I think that's a little bit ridiculous. That's ridiculous. See, the thing about when we had UCF and we had these group of 5 teams who felt like they had been snubbed, they were on the cusp. Like, I believe UCF that year was ranked 5th or 6th, and they beat Auburn in, I think it was the Sugar Bowl. They were right there, so they would have made the 12-team playoff. But it's not like they were 20th debating on, we should be in the playoffs. No, absolutely not. I think that's ridiculous. See, what we should do is just no regulations, parameters. Just have the top 12 teams, top 14, 16, however many you have, and just rank them out and play the games. Have the first 2 rounds be college football playoff home games. Home games. Dan Lanning talked about this, and obviously he feels that last year his team got absolutely screwed because instead of being able to play a home game at Autzen where they already beat Ohio State, well, they had to go to the Rose Bowl and play what was like the 4th-ranked team in the country. And just after waiting 3 weeks, by the way, I think the calendar in college football is broken. I think the playoffs is somewhat broken. I think there are a lot of things that are such an easy fix. It's not like it's complicated. It just takes forever in college football as the committee and as the people, the heads of whoever makes all the things go on. I don't know who it is. I don't think anybody knows. Like, is it the conference commissioners? Is it the head coaches? Is it we don't have a players committee? Nothing like that. Who makes these decisions? Is it the committee? Is it the playoff committee? They make these decisions, but they take forever, and they wait on legislature, and they wait on all of these things, and it just takes forever, and bit by bit, we start to get a little bit better, but then we try to keep part of the old formats and part of the old college football and try to drag it with us. That's why we still have bowl games. That's why we still have, these teams playing in the Sugar Bowl in the second round that nobody cares about. Nobody cares about winning the Sugar Bowl anymore. It used to be you win the Sugar Bowl. Well, that was an incredible honor, and you didn't opt out of those games. You didn't do that, But now it's become this thing where you're not playing in the Sugar Bowl. You're playing in the playoffs, and so you don't really care anymore. So I think as the body in college football, we have to move quickly. They have to move quickly, and they have to change things fast. Let the group of 6 have their own playoff. Let the regular playoffs be 2 home games, and then you play the rest. Let it be back to back to back. Not a lot of rest, right? Have the Army-Navy game, say, in week 1. Okay, so that way we can play the rivalry week, and then we can play the championships, and then the first round of the playoffs, second round, third round, championship. And then the season's done. And then we have the portal open. I just saw a player from Oregon who had to leave his team. This was a cornerback who had 10 pass breakups on the year. He had to leave in the middle of a playoff run. Oregon could win the national championship, but because of the portal and because he believes that next year he probably feels like he needs to leave, and that's fair. That's fair. That's what we thought this was when we were opening up the playoffs, the portal, but because of that, he leaves in the middle of a playoff run because he has to. And I think that's completely broken. That's the reason we get this Lane Kiffin thing. And, this episode has been a lot of me ranting, but I think there's just a lot of things in college football that can be so easily fixed. And in college football, we argue and we bicker, and that's part of what makes it so amazing is we have all of these topics to talk about. But let's do what's best for the sport. Let's do what's best. This isn't college basketball. This isn't college baseball. This isn't the NFL. This is its own thing, and it is special, and it is great, and it needs to be its own thing, and it is amazing. I believe college football is incredible. I don't think it's quote-unquote broken. I hate when people say that, or unwatchable. It's not, right? But it can be better, and it needs to be quicker. Well, it's been a great episode, a lot to talk about, but we have the college football playoffs, the second round coming up soon. Can't wait for those games. We have Ole Miss and Georgia. We have Ohio State and Miami, Alabama and Indiana, and then Oregon and Texas Tech. Incredible games. Can't wait for those ones. They'll be played on New Year's Eve and then New Year's Day. We'll probably have a preview episode for that one. I'm trying to be able to do more episodes. It's just a lot on my plate right now. But hey, again, if you are watching this from the bottom of my heart, I thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy those games, and I will be back soon. I promise. Thank you for listening, and have a Merry Christmas.